hear the word architecture, what is the first thing that would come to their mind?
Designing buildings.
Buildings, absolutely. Maybe Eiffel Tower, maybe Taj Mahal, some of those monuments, seven wonders of the world, right? And then I say, okay, what is tech architecture? And then you have these moving boxes, there's a cloud, there's a database, there's this and that, all sorts of things coming together, lots of arrows going here and there. Not as romantic as the previous one, right? But what if you wanted your architecture to actually say a story and be remembered, be trusted, be recognized, be thought of much later, right? That's what we're trying to do here, and that's what is very important. So my name is Syamanthaka. I've been around in the industry for a couple of decades now, and when I first started, I was in a software startup. It was a very small company. We were working out of a co-working space at that time. And my boss came to my desk and he said, hey, it's your first day. He kept a book on my desk. It's a very thick O'Reilly book, the Perl programming book. There's a camel on the cover. He said, yeah, this is what you have to learn and then you have to write a model. I said, yeah, sounds good. I opened the textbook because I was just out of college and reading textbooks wasn't a big deal at that time. Right? I was looking through the textbook, oh, the definition looked very nice. And then there's a snippet of code that they've given you. Okay, this is what I have to run. Okay, fine, good. And then they've given you an output there. This is what your output should look like. Okay, I typed that on a VI editor and then I hit enter to make it run. Obviously, I did not get what was expected over there. There was errors and all sorts of things, right? That was my first instance where I realized that what's on the paper is definitely not what's the reality. That was my lighting movement that told me that theory is one thing, the reality is different. And then as I went to the different roles that I've played in life and at career, it became more and more obvious. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of different companies, a lot of different programming languages and all of that. And I think one interesting case was where I was working with a biotech firm. Now, I was working with the IT organization of that biotech firm, and then there was this internal job posting which gave me an opportunity to work with the research wing of the same firm. Now, when I'm saying research, my colleagues were lab coat wearing PhD scientists, like brainy people, and I was this only geeky person who loved coffee and code, right? So what do? I am trying to convey some points to them. I'm trying to talk about, so I've built this entire system. So my boss had given me permission to buy whatever software I want, whatever tools, technology, whatever I wanted, and then I could write whatever fancy code I wanted. I had some DNA structures that I had built for them. They could visualize all of the ABCG, all of those things. They could visualize with bubbles and everything. And I'm trying to explain to one of those scientists, hey, this is built with D3JS and this fantastic stuff. And they're like, yeah, so what? I just want to know what, how does this align with something else? Again, another reality check for me. So that's where I thought maybe how to develop the art of storytelling becomes very, very important in the field of architecture. So I'll talk about that today. Now you must be thinking, okay, I'm a techie or a geeky person. How do I talk about stories? I don't know how many of you, when they asked about the hobbies last time I was here, I spoke about, how do you change this? Yeah. See, you can't, I can't even hold the pointer the right way apparently. So, last time they asked us about what our hobbies were, and I was talking about reading. I think today a few people also mentioned that reading is their hobby. But not many people, I've understood that the current generation doesn't read so much. They just can't sit with a book for a long time. They have much faster ways of reading. So you must be thinking, okay, I don't even read. How am I going to talk about a story? How am I going to say a story, right? Now, let me give you an analogy of this. Many years back when I was doing my 10th standard, I was trying to convince my grandmother of something, okay? Now, I'll tell you the secondary part of it, but at that time my hobbies, so last time when I was here I said my hobbies keep changing over time, and at that time my hobby was to understand a lot about bikes and cars and everything that's there, and get into the details of it. Okay, so I would maybe find out about the piston size, maybe the CC, what speed it goes, what are the features, all of those things. Now I wanted to buy a scooty and I have not yet crossed my 10th standard. Okay. So I convinced my grandmother. I knew that she was the right person at that point of time, not my dad or mom. And I went and told her that, you know what, if I had told her that, hey, this scooty has this piston size, this CC, and this is the tank size, and this is the 40 watt bulb, or any of those things, she wouldn't have bought it at all. So what I did, very smartly, I told her, this will help you, I can take you to the temples, I can take you to your friends, I will come back home half an hour faster than the school bus, and I will be able to take the dog for a walk, so that will save you some time from doing that. And she got the story, okay. But only condition was I was supposed to score 90% marks, and then I would get the scooty. I did not score 90% marks, a few marks more, less than that. And my dad was like, no, she didn't satisfy one of the conditions, right, which was supposed to be scoring 90% marks. And my grandmother said, no, but then there are so many other things that she can do, and she's almost got 90%, and she had got the idea, right, so she didn't mind going with that story, and that's what the power of story is, right. So how do you apply this in day-to-day work? So let me ask you guys a few questions, okay. Let's say suppose you go back to office on Monday, and the scary person, the boss, comes to you and says, hey, I have a presentation with a customer in another 1 hour. You have just 1 hour to put together a slide deck for what we're doing in this current project. Okay? What would your first slide be? Maybe not first slide. What would be your most important slide be? Okay, you have a few options. The tech stack of what you're doing, the cost of what you're doing, the bugs that are there, or the use cases of what you're doing, or something else. And if it is something else, what is that something else?
What business model?
Okay.
The impact that is going
Okay. So nobody's going to talk about the tech stack?
Cost.
Value proposition. Value proposition. Okay. Very nice. Now, what if I asked you, let's say you had a superpower in architecture. What is that superpower? Would it be finding out all the bugs that is there in your system? Or would it be googling the fastest before anybody else? Or would it be about conveying what you're trying to say? That would be a superpower? Okay.
To understand all you need of those services.
Okay.
Because there are
And what if I asked you one final question, that if you were to compare your product or your project that you're working on to a movie genre, okay, would it be an action thriller with lots of fight and everything? Would it be a comedy scene with everything is broken, somehow it just comes together and it works, okay? Or is it a documentary, calm and quiet, very simple, but it has all the nice visuals and you have nice dashboards and everything? What is it? First one, action, full.
Or
Mine is more like a suspense, you never know what's
What would happen?
or it could be a mixture of everything.
Everything, maybe horror.
Or action comedy.
Comedy, okay. Yeah. One of these would be what we consider. So let's look at what do we need to do to make our architecture, say a story and be something that that remains etched in the minds of people. So, what are the things that you would need to have in this? First and foremost thing is it about taking all these complex things that you have in it, trying to, the point is you have to make someone understand what is it that you're doing with this entire solution, right? So, taking all of that complexity and giving them some clarity. Now, some of the prompts that are going on is, if you use your AI chatbot and all that, you would say, okay, explain to me this concept the way you would explain to a 5-year-old. I would say, switch it a little bit, explain this concept the way you would explain to your grandparent, somebody very senior, right? They understand some things in life, and they understand a lot of things more than we do. But how do you explain the tech to them, right? What is this whole thing doing for them? What is it doing? What is it, how is it benefiting a lot of other people? So that clarity is what you want to bring. Now, most of you would have seen that Simon Sinek's small video where he draws 3 concentric circles. He says the Y is in the center, the next round is what, and then the how, right? So always remember those 3 concentric circles, the why. Why are we doing what we are doing? Because if we as architects don't understand that, how are we going to even build what we are trying to build? And then comes the what. What are we trying to build? What are we trying to connect? And then your how. How can be in many different ways, right? Each of us would have a different way of the how part. So that's the why and the what are the most important. Now, what is a system if it doesn't talk about the people who are in it? Right? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the people who are benefiting from it? Who is being affected, impacted positively, negatively? That's the other component. So it's basically just these three aspects. Okay, think of it like tamasoma, jyotirgamaya. Okay, going from the darkness to the light, bringing that clarity and talking about what's there. So let me tell you, you don't need to think about it very, in a very different way or in a very complicated way. Just take these 4 boxes, and if you remember this, you will basically be able to draw out a story for anything that you're trying to do. Now, let me give a parallel to this as in a movie that you're watching, right? So the first thing that, after the title slide of the movie, what is the first thing that comes up? Your introduction of your characters. So let's say it's a Rajni movie. Okay, you see him coming in a super fast car. It stops there. The door opens, steps out, and then there's dust, and the character is introduced. He's wearing all those, and then the heroine comes in. The other sub characters come into picture, and then the villain is introduced. So now you know who are the people that are going to play a role in this movie. That's your characters. Who are the people who are going to benefit from it? Who are your stakeholders, positively, negatively affected? And what are the systems that you're connecting to? Because never are we building something in isolation. It's always connected to something else. Next, what happens in the movie? There's a fight. There's a problematic situation. The hero tries to win the heroine, and there's a fight with the family, convincing. All those things happen, right? So that's your conflict section. What is it that we are trying to solve? What is the problem statement? What are the bottlenecks? Where do we see that there could be constraints? Are we talking about, say, regulatory aspects? Are we talking about some specifics, security aspects that we need to focus on in the software? All of those things would come into your second area. What happens after that in the movie? The hero convinces the heroine, all the fight scenes happen, everything is done, and then some resolutions come into picture. So what were the decisions? So here is where the crux of your entire technology part comes into picture, right? What were the decisions that you took as an architect? What are the principles? What are the patterns that you're applying? What are the components that are involved? What is the tech stack? But keep that as generic as possible depending on the audience that you're talking to, right? I'll get into a little bit more of that aspect in a bit, but finally what you have in the movie, hero, heroine live happily ever after, and that's your epilogue. What would you translate that into? What has been the impact of this, as you've seen, right? And what has the benefit of this been? What are the lessons learned from this? How are these components going to be reusable? Where are you going to use this again? That's the benefit that the organization is also looking at, right? How can you use some of the things that we've invested in something else, without having to reinvent it? So basically, just these 4 things, if you're able to remember and put it into context from what you're doing, that would basically convey the right story of the architecture that you're doing. Okay? So I'll give you an example of a project that I was working on to put these 4 boxes into context. Okay? So I was with Philips at that point of time, and I was with Philips Research. So obviously we had a lot of flexibility to use any technology. We had access to GPUs, we had access to cloud, all these things, right? And the use case was that we had to sell a solution, a digital solution to a healthcare chain of hospitals based in North America. Now, we could experiment as much as we want. We made a lot of proof of concepts, everything was working really good, and all that we had to do was convince the stakeholders to buy this extremely fancy, big, billion dollar product. How do we do that? If we go and tell them, oh, we have GPUs, oh, we have a federated solution, oh, we have AI models built into it, they're not going to listen, because we're talking about CEOs of a hospital chain. They are not interested in what is there underneath it. It could be as simple as having a couple of lines of C++ and they're fine with it. They don't even care what's underlying. So the way we had to transform that entire thing was this story that we built. Right? So we started with talking to them about, okay, what do you see when you come into a hospital? Doctors are doing their rounds around 11 o'clock and they're going across all the wards. There are patients and their charts next to their beds. They see all their charts, but they're just not able to make any sense of it. They have to go back to their desk, put up all the pictures, all the scans, the charts and everything, and then they have to sit and analyze, okay, this has gone up, okay, there is a small darkening in this part of the artery, and then his blood pressure has risen, and then all of that, they have to sit and analyze, make their notes, and then say, okay, this person might have XYZ condition, and ABC medicine might help them, and then they would have to convey that to the nursing staff. Now, patient is still waiting for a diagnosis. The nursing staff doesn't know what to give them as an immediate medicine. The family is very irritated because the doctor has not yet diagnosed what is the problem, right? Now, you have a chain of hospital, which means suddenly there's going to be some inflow of patients. The nursing staff is suddenly not sure how many beds they need to have in the ICU, how many they should have in the wards. They're totally confused, they're not able to rearrange, and there's suddenly an influx of patients. I think many of these series that we have seen recently where there's some major incident and then people are rushing in and all that. So my characters are the doctors, the staff that is managing the wards, and the patients and their families. And the conflicts are the patient frustration, lack of diagnosis in a timely manner, lack of planning in the wards, basically overworked staff. Now, what are we trying to give you? We're saying, okay, you have a lot of data. We're not telling you to move all your data into the cloud because one, that's going to be very expensive for you, and two, maybe you have a lot of regulations in place where it prevents you from storing confidential medical data on the cloud. So what are we saying? The doctor comes on the rounds and your data has already gone through a certain level of iteration with our models, which only the models of which sit in a different space. The doctor has an iPad or a phone or something where these applications have already access to all of these records, and they're immediately able to see what sort of insights they get from the data, and they're able to, looking at the insights that's already been derived for them, they're able to instantaneously make a decision on what is the course of action for that patient. The staff has a series of dashboards which they're able to monitor periodically. They get 72-hour predictions which tells them what to expect over the next few hours and how do they plan their wards, which ward needs more beds, can we change the ICU, can we do all of these arrangements. Now all of these are the benefits that we get. So that's our resolution part. And then finally we say, we are offering you some cloud solutions which puts you ahead of all of the competition. This is the time when cloud is just about starting to get popular. So the other competing hospitals wouldn't have the solution. You're very much within the regulatory requirements. There's no data being transmitted, and then a little bit of tech we put in there. We have de-identification of data. We have APIs which access the right kind of information. We have, give them a little bit of data, technical details here and there, and that was the one that actually got us the point across to them that what is it that we're trying to solve, and that was the winning aspect of it. So does that give you a little bit of a flavor of what I'm trying to bring out here? So do you think we can try an example? Right. Can we have a couple of volunteers, or maybe at least one volunteer who would like to try it out, whatever we've spoken about here. There's no judgment, it's absolutely perfectly fine, but it would be good. You can try it out so that you can go back and implement it back in that project as well. Sure, please. You can try, I'll give you one more example. Please. Would you? So let's say, what can we ask you to talk about? Maybe, do you use Uber or Ola?
Ola is history.
Rapido, you do use. If you were to talk about, let's say Rapido is new in the market, and you were to explain the
Investors.
Yes. How would you do that?
Okay. There were 4 stages, right?
Yeah.
Let me take them
Should I
out.
put it back to that? This one.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I go to a VC firm. Okay. let's say some that's why I'm loud enough, I guess.
Everybody can hear him?
Yeah.
Would you invest in what he's trying to sell you?
Okay, so over here the first are the players in the system, right? Basically, I also done. I'm basically a staff engineer, so I also do a bit of architecture. Basically, when you figure out the flow of an application, one way is the workflow method. Well, there can be many. Another is the user action. So basically, the people and systems and stakeholders are the users and what actions they will do. So imagine there is IPL match happening at Chinnaswamy Stadium, rush hour, and there will be surge pricing. Okay, we all know what surge pricing is, and let's say when our demand is high or there is some kind of low supply, high demand. At that time, these platforms, any kind of e-commerce platform, they basically will increase the price. Okay, even let's say when it's raining, Zepto or Blinkit will increase the price. So similarly, let's say you go, your driver hasn't come, your chauffeur hasn't come, you go to Chinnaswamy Stadium. The situation is very bad over there, almost close to a stampede, and now you have to go back home. It's already late at night, and then what do? You're trying to book Ola or Uber, the existing players in the market, and unfortunately, the price has increased by 40%. Okay, even let's say two-wheelers, it's super duper costly, and on top of that, Ola and Uber drivers, they have a habit of, let's say, charging you extra. They call you on your phone. Okay, they will ask you where you want to go. And based on your location, they will understand how urgent it is, especially if it's outskirts of Bangalore, and they will ask you, give me 50 rupees extra. Okay. So here we have the system, so these are the various people in the system are the people who are using it. People are using it, well, the platform, people like you and me, as well as let's make it a B2B also. Let's say you want to plan an office excursion. Okay, so you have to go and find out those buses which take you from place to the venue of the excursion. Maybe Ola Uber does not have anything of that sort. So it is not just a B2C where you get charged unnecessarily extra. Okay. And drivers have a habit of, let's say, charging you even more on a very verbal way. And you don't have a B2B solution in the market existing. Let's say for planning a team outing, an excursion, so on and so forth. That is the place where we will come in. Okay. So we have designed.
Now
Yeah.
So you've mentioned the meeting, you've mentioned the
Conference. Yeah. So the solution which we have now is, I don't know, let's take it a name called Cheapito. Cheap it's very cheap, so that's why. So now what we'll do is, so we have our app. Okay. So I have the target audience is basically not very technical, right? So block diagrams also possibly won't do, or UML won't do for them. So what we do is, we explain them. We explain that this particular solution, this particular piece of software, we have a desktop version. We have of course a mobile version of it, and over here it's pretty simple. It has a voice assistant. Okay, you don't even have to. You can set your time. You can set various routines.
Now you're going to the features part.
Yeah.
So if you were to take one step back and you're simply telling them you can book without the search price at the click of a.
Okay, so you just open the app, and with just a simple click, okay, you can even set the price, okay, but it will be plus minus 20%, okay. price, it's plus minus 20%, mostly minus 20% because it's cheaper, okay? And you will get some kind of cashback, okay? You will get some sort of cashback, and you will be you will possibly, if the driver actually asks you more, okay, it will be properly tracked, okay, and if this happens, the driver will be blacklisted, okay?
Okay, again, we are getting into the details of the features. So, take a step back and just talk about what are the solutions you can implement. You have a mobile app. It takes very little time to book the app. You get better connect between the person who's offering the ride and the person who's looking for a ride, and both the parties are winning. And as so you're getting the picture.
Yeah. So just with the click of a button, you will basically get a very cheap ride. You'll get a very cheap ride, and if there's hardly any way of, let's say, overcharging you, okay, we don't have any surge pricing, okay, and we also have a subscription model where you get even more attractive prices at 35% discount from the current market rate. So that is basically it. And also we offer services to, let's say, bigger enterprises.
So that's your future readiness.
Yes.
So you're able to use the same thing that you built to add much more. So let's say you're an enterprise, you're able to utilize that. So you're seeing more benefits out of what you did.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being such a good volunteer. Would you like to try? Please. Guys, would you buy the product that he's selling by the way?
Tell us more about the cashback part.
So now I'll give you one constraint, okay? No, I'm giving you another product to sell. Let's say it's Zomato. Let's say Zomato has never been there in the market. But the constraint is that this person who's listening to you has only 10 seconds to listen to you. You can use 5 sentences. But you have to tell him the story and sell him the product so that he invests. And he's a very wealthy person.
Imagine you are lying in some resort or some leisure place, and you are thinking that I wish I could get this cheesecake or my favorite biryani.
10 seconds over. 10 seconds over.
Give him 30 seconds.
10 seconds I can say, are you hungry? Food is ready.
Absolutely. Yes.
So if you can, if you want to this kind of facility in your fingertips or your mobile tips, we are offering this solution that's called Zomato, okay, or any other name, whatever suitable as per the business and customer needs. But in this app, what will happen? Have you ever imagined that you are lying somewhere, I mean, there's some leisure place and enjoying your holidays, and you wish that you could get your favorite biryani or cheesecake or whatever you wish within 15 minutes? You have never imagined that place, right? But we are going to offer you an app which will do exactly the same thing. We will have the world-class cuisines all over the Bangalore, and you can order them quickly from your mobile. Personalized app will be there. It will store your history also. It will recommend new dishes so that you can explore if you are a foodie. So this is the best platform we can offer you.
Okay, so now let me give you a little different perspective of whatever he said. Okay, now I said that this person is very wealthy. Thank you so much for your time.
One quick question.
Yes.
So this looks like a sales pitch.
Exactly.
This is not an architect.
Exactly. So let me give you another perspective, right? So I said this person is very wealthy, and I said he has very little time. Okay, I have to still sell all of these things, mention all of these things so that he understands what my solution is. Okay. So let's say I say that I'm a hungry person and I need some specialty food immediately. I am a talented chef, but I'm not getting opportunities in restaurants. I'm a gig worker. I have a scooty, but I don't get any opportunities to earn money. I'm bringing all of these together in one single platform, where a hungry person, a talented chef, and a gig worker all get to benefit from it. And you, as an investor, are bringing job opportunities to a very, very large set of people. What we are doing is we have an app which brings all these three people together, and using the complex 5G technology, we're able to bring all of these together, deliver food from a talented chef to a hungry person with the help of a gig worker in less than 15 seconds. And this platform can also be used for commercial kitchens, small kitchens, commercial kitchens, large players, anybody. 30 seconds. I've still been able to convey all of these things, and I've also given that person something to think about, that what he's doing is bringing job opportunities to a lot of people, right? So my thought process behind what I was trying to express here is it's not just about conveying the story, or it's not about a sales pitch, but it's also having an elevator pitch for your architecture itself, right? I think all of us know what an elevator pitch is. That let's say you have only 30 seconds, but for those of you who are not familiar, you have only 30 seconds by the time you go from ground floor to 6th floor, and you have a very influential person in the lift with you. How do you manage to sell everything that you want to talk about and yet convince them to do what you're asking them to do, right? So I hope that gives you a flavor. What I will do is I will give you some tools that you can use when you are framing your story behind the architecture. So first thing is always bring that metaphor or the analogy part of it, right? They should be able to relate to what you're saying. That's the first thing. So how you connect, what is it that you're trying to map to? Give them something non-technical to associate that with, because exactly what I did to my grandmother, right? I told her I'm going to take her to her friend's place. So that was something she was able to connect with, not the CC, the cubic capacity of my skin. Right? Use that. And then I'm not saying you shouldn't use all the boxes and all of that. Use boxes, because architects, we can't be without using those boxes, right? But use 3-4 of them. What will you do in those boxes? Talk about what you have now, or what is the before state, what is the after state. Try to convey that, and try to say how does this entire thing flow, how is your entire overview flowing from one end to another, what are you accomplishing. Always talk about the people, give use cases, give scenarios. If I were this, I would. This is what most of our product owners do, right? They have to write a scenario, they have to write what are we, who is benefiting, who is using. Because that's the most important thing that they would understand. And then always, I think we cannot emphasize this enough. Whatever you do, what is your boss going to ask you? How many hours did you save? How much money have you made? That's all that matters to you, right? Have your numbers, have your, show what impact you're making on this. And then, we are geeky by heart. Okay, so that is not going to go from us. That's where you would use your iterative depth. So let's say you're talking to a product owner, what areas would you focus on in the technology part? If you're talking to, say, the engineers who need to implement this, or maybe infrastructure people who are going to get your setup in place, what details would you give them? There is where you will use your tech specs. You will say, okay, I need these many CPUs, these many GPUs, this is capacity, okay, I'm going to use this technology, this module would have. So how do you build that? Have that at the back of your mind, and use that to define that appropriately to the right audience. Okay? And I think I would just leave this as a key takeaway for you all. And I do encourage all of you to go back and think of the project that you're working on, or something that you did just before this meeting, and try to think of it as a story. And try drawing it out or talking it to yourself and refine what you're saying, and see whether you're able to apply some of these theory what we learned here in practice. Maybe pick up any, if you don't want to do it with your project, maybe try it with an imaginary case. But highly recommend doing it with a project that you're working on, because that will help you understand what is the why. Right? It's the first question we need to ask ourselves. Why are we doing this? Because if we don't understand why we are doing it, we would just be another bot doing what prompt was given to us, right? And we're not bots here. That's what distinguishes us from a bot. So, again, coming back to the analogy of my grandmother, towards the end of her life, she started forgetting a lot of things. But one thing that she always remembered was me taking her on my scooty to all her friends. Okay, so that's the impact of the way I convinced her with my story, and that's what legacy you want to leave behind with the work that you've done. Because you spent your entire heart and soul in what you're doing, and if that doesn't leave a legacy behind, then it's all meaningless. So it is future-proof only if people believe in what you do. And for them to believe in what you do, you have to believe in what you do yourself. Right. I hope this helps. I'm happy to take any specific questions that you may have. I'll also leave you with my LinkedIn credentials. Any questions? Yes.
How do you apply this to sell yourself?
Very good question. Okay, so think about the 4 boxes again, and think about what is it that you're, what is the value that you're bringing, what are the stakeholders that you're talking to. So that's the understanding your audience. Are you talking about, are you looking at a marriage market or are you looking at a job market? Understand your stakeholders and sell the right elements in that. Talk about your, what is the problem statement that you're trying to bridge the gap on. Now, I was just talking to a few people outside at lunch and we were discussing about how AI is making it very suffocating for us to be at work, right? So that's where you have to show what is it that's distinguishing you and why should they, what is the benefit that they would have by having you instead of a bot over there, right? So that flavor is your resolution or your problem statement that you're solving part. And then how do you, so what are the, what are the capabilities you bring, that's your resolution, and how are you going to help them solve a certain problem that organization. So you have to do your research on what organizations you're looking at. And then how you are future proof and what are the benefits you can bring to them. Just think if you can use that.
So how, so that this model, how is a product owner and architect is different representing this?
Yes. See, a product owner is more concerned about what is the cost that they can sell it for, truly speaking, right? They aren't so much concerned about who are the people affected by it or what is the design pattern that you have applied, which is good. See, for example, let's say I say Kafka. Kafka is Elasticsearch. Now you were talking about the search pricing and all that, right? So if I say Kafka is going to help me do an Elasticsearch, a product owner may not be able to even come to that point. They may not even be able to explain that bit of it, right? So rather if I said that there is a search or there is a dynamic change in the usage of the application and that has been addressed by Kafka, that makes a big difference, right? I use Kafka for Elasticsearch. Instead, there was a dynamic change in the way of the infrastructure usage which was addressed by this technology. I think that the technology bit would be missing from what a product owner might say.
So, let's say we have a very legacy system, right?
Yes.
And we have to pitch in an architecture that would require a lot of changes.
Okay.
So generally, what product owners or our managers do is they discard our opinion because they don't want to. They want fast results. So how do you actually convince them to let you implement the architecture that will help them in the future, but is very difficult to implement right now?
So that's where you have to do your research to show them all of the benefits that come into the picture, right? So it's not just, so whatever I spoke about here today, it's not just about some random storytelling that we've told them, but you will have to understand what is the underlying reason behind what you're saying, and you have to be 100% confident of that, okay? And then how you present it would be what matters. Because if you were to tell them about, oh, these are the changes that I have to do, or this is the complexity and it connects to all the systems, they're not buying it because they're seeing the problems only. You're only highlighting the problems, right? How can you make that problem highlighted in such a way that they realize that, okay, if I don't do this, what is going to be the impact? So that's what you have to bring in. So start practicing this bit a little bit. You'll get familiar with it.
I have a pitch on Monday. I'll
Right.
practice tomorrow. Yeah.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Hey, I think they were mentioning that we are allowed to give candies to the people who ask questions, so please do hand out some candies to the people who ask questions. Any other questions?
It's not a question but an observation.
Can you please pass?
The challenge I'm seeing is, when we talk to the leaders, we are asked to take an elevator pitch. But when the leader talks to the subordinates, it's an elongated pitch. So some of the leaders have to be educated that they also have to do an elevator pitch to the
that's
reporters,
where
reportees.
what we do, what we need to see, we can't change what they are doing, right? So what we need to do is we need to take the right bit out of what they're saying. We have to have those layers of filters, right? Only like what is required for us and see what we do. These days leadership is a very complicated world. Yes.
What kind of metaphor you generally use to convey this is well to the business people?
Okay, one very simple example. Okay, I was in a situation where we had to convince the stakeholders that our architecture team is required in the company. So there, I had to use the analogy of an architect in the real world, right? Let's say you have to build a house. You need to know what is there, and there should be someone who tells you what to do. You just can't do it with some masons laying some bricks across your plot. And then take them to the benefits that we bring from the experiences of the different types of projects and what are the learnings we've had, or maybe the breadth of experience and all those things, and tune it.
Good.
So it totally depends on your context.
I have a follow-up here.
Yes.
I am so-called an epic architect. Okay? So basically I refine the things, and my boss is a product owner. He gives me set of requirements and all that, and my audience is my team.
Okay.
So basically I have to give them two things. One is high-level overview and then the low-level overview, as in like waterfall model.
Yes.
Now, do you have templates written or followed templates where I can apply it in the form of documentation, right? Have you been following it, and then if so, then can you share some templates?
So I don't have any templates written per se, but what I would say is, if your team has to do what you say, they need to know why they should do what you say.
I get that. This is story representation in the form of a flow or whatever, right? I get the gist of the thing. But if you have some live examples of how a story was converted into the real...
So there are some, I think there are some libraries in Python which can do something of that sort, where you can get user stories written out of it for each module. It will give you a human-like way of it. So maybe you want to explore some of those. But again, it still boils down to the same thing what I'm saying, that unless they see why they are doing it, you can tell them all that you want to write this, I want 5 lines of code, whatever you say, they're not going to see a value in it unless they see how is it benefiting them. Again, they are your stakeholders now. What is the benefit that they would get from implementing this? Anything else?
Do you have any references where you can practice the architecture for just stepping into it?
No references per se, but do connect with me. We can have some conversations. Maybe we can try out a few of your use cases. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone.
That was quite a story, Syamanthaka. Thank you so much for your inspiration. Thank you so much for your inspiring thoughts. Next up, we have one more section. Before that, we'll drop off for 10-15 minutes for a short break and come back quickly. I would like to welcome Syamanthaka and Tarun. Thank you so much.